Welcome to the Hunter Report, and I've got Adobe Premiere Pro right there, and I've got Final Cut Pro right there. And the big question is, it's 2017, which of the two programs is right for you? Let's start at the most basic thing and the most important thing to me, which is cost. Final Cut Pro has a fixed cost right here of $300. And Adobe Premiere Pro has a minimum cost of $20 a month. Now, if you have the photography package, it's $10 a month that you're going to pay. Group those two together for a $30 a month spend. And then you can spend an extra $20 a month to total $50 a month for the complete Adobe suite. Now, let's go ahead right now and break this down to you in terms of dollars and cents. And really just do a quick little analysis. Final Cut's a $300 fixed cost. Premiere is a $20 a month minimum recurring cost. Now, I've met some people out in the field and they said, and they're just not analytical. They simply went by feeling. And they said things like, well, one professional gig would pay for your Premiere for an entire year. So I don't even think about it after that. I personally don't operate that way. I don't operate by feeling. I operate by cold, hard analytics. The analytics are very clear to me, very clear as day. Look at the chart here. The green line is Adobe Premiere. And we see that after merely 15 months, the Adobe Premiere catches up to the fixed cost of the Final Pro. And then after that, you are paying Adobe money that you wouldn't have to pay Apple for its Final Cut. Now, there's other reasons to choose these apps besides just the cost. And we're going to get into all of that right now. But just to let you know that if you're in this for the long haul, if you're in this as a business, this is something that should affect your decision. So something that's just as important as cost in the entire decision process is, do you have a Mac or do you not have a Mac? If you don't have a Mac, well, then you have no options. You have to go with the Adobe Suite, or there are some other fixed cost editing solutions for Windows. And I don't really know the Windows world, so if you do, go ahead and leave a comment in the description as to the state-of-the-art fixed cost editing program for Windows. I'm just slightly curious. I'm sure it exists. But if you have Windows and you're serious, you pretty much are stuck with Premiere, which is sad. So this really brings us to the third reason why you would want to go Final Cut versus Premiere. I run my own business. It's a freedom I do not take lightly. It's a freedom that I view with the ultimate respect of capitalism and bringing yourself up by your bootstraps. I respect the hustle. I respect the grind very highly. Okay, and not everyone can be their own boss. You have to have a certain personality type. You have to be in a certain point in your life, both financially and in terms of self-understanding, whether being your own boss is the right choice for you. For me, it's absolutely the right choice. I'm a leader. I am not a follower. Now, given certain financial constraints, if I'm running out of money, obviously, I'm not going to starve to death. I'm going to go work for somebody else. But if you take any look at my track record, it shows that I've gone to work for institutions for a while, and then typically I go off and go on my own. Third reason is an industry reason. If you're looking to be part of the industry at large, the trend is that most shops are trending towards the Adobe Suite. Now, I personally run a one-person shop, and lots of you run a one-person shop. Even if you work for a bigger shop, even if you have a day job, you're still doing stuff on your own time, whether it's artistic projects, whether you have a YouTube channel, a social media effort like me. And the trend is that bigger shops are trending towards Premiere, towards the Adobe Suite, and that single shops tend to prefer Final Cut. Now, it's not cut and dry, but that's the general feeling. And there is a reason I'm going to say it right now. Final Cut simply is easier. Final Cut, I'm going to say it again, Final Cut simply is easier for a single person shop. Now, Adobe provides you a whole bunch of suites. Let's go take a look here. Whole bunch of applications from Photoshop to Lightroom, Premiere, After Effects for animation, and Illustrator for illustration, and Audition for audio, and so on and so forth. And these are great for larger projects with larger teams. But for a single person enterprise or a very small business with a single point person or two point people and a whole bunch of collaborators here and there, on demand. My personal opinion is that Final Cut is so much easier. So let's go ahead right now, get out of the analytics, get out of the talking, and let's get to some real nitty gritty, down and dirty. So here we are in Final Cut. Let's create a new project. So there's me. Drag that audio clip. Drag that clip into the timeline. So here's what Final Cut looks like. And let's go ahead and do that exact same thing in Premiere. And here we are in Adobe Premiere. Let's go ahead right now, take that same file, drag it in, importing files. There we go. So there's a few differences. And one difference that sort of matters to me, it might not matter to you. If we look here in Final Cut, you see there's a visual timeline here. Whereas here in Premiere, the default option, it's just this gray box. Now, there may be a way to turn it on. I don't know. I was able to edit. I was able to do a full day edit without that. But it's just the little things. So here's another reason. So here's another difference between Premiere and Final Cut. The color correction in Premiere is just way different. The color correction is just different. You can do things like sharpen your file, which is really similar to like the stuff you do in Photoshop and Lightroom, except on a movie. So that's sort of cool. All right, I had to move my head to the center so you guys can see the toolbar here. Back in Final Cut, and let's just do some real basic stuff. Here we are in the effects panel of Final Cut, and I want to add a simple vignette to a movie. So I just take the vignette effect right here, drag it onto my Final Cut. Yeah, the clip's upside down. Anyway, there you can see vignettes in place. That's it. That's simple. Let's go ahead into Premiere and try and do a vignette. All right, so we're here in Premiere and we want to make a vignette like it was so easy to do in Final Cut. So you have to actually build your own vignette. So you go to the circle, you drag the circle onto the clip, and you see it totally overwrites the clip, with a white circle and a black background. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is to play with the blending mode. And you go to Stencil Alpha, and you can start to see the clip poking through, and then we hit the invert, and we're like, okay, it looks like the record is in the middle of a clip. Let's see, we probably want an edge feathered. Okay, that sort of makes sense. Oh, look at that. It's starting to look like that, and then probably want an edge radius, okay, and then let's make it bigger, and let's put some feathering on the center. It's starting to look like it, and let's just keep bringing it out. All right, so that sort of looks like a vignette. That was like 20 different steps. I basically had to build my own vignette, and it shows you both the power of Adobe Premiere, but it also shows you the weakness, gives you the power to have lots of flexibility. Although Final Cut has that exact same power, that exact same flexibility. And the weakness is that there's lots of things in Final Cut that are just easy to do right from the get-go, like a basic vignette. And here's another thing. So let's head back to Final Cut right here and search for look at that, here's the color planes transition. Let's just go ahead and break the clip apart and plop into color planes. Do that, look at that. Get some nice 3D color planes. And in Premiere, you'd have to build that. Now, some of you are saying, hold on. There's a whole bunch of free plugins that you can put in Premiere to allow you to do all this stuff that you could do in Final Cut. Well, nothing really is for free. And yes, those plugins do exist. They exist in places like Video Blocks. They exist in places, all the other competitors to Video Blocks. But nothing's for free, and you do have to pay for them. They just are. Now, maybe there's some open source ones. But again, I just subscribe to the philosophy that nothing is for free. And the things that you do get for free, like within Final Cut, they're good to go, they're ready to go, super easy to use. And that's the picture that I'm really trying to paint here, is that Final Cut is it's an all-encapsulated program. All right, now here's another thing that you can do with Final Cut. So I'm on the MacBook Pro 2016, and you see that's the smart touch bar right there. And I'm getting all these visual menu things that come up when I click on different things. Like let's go here, to the transform window. I mean, look at that. You can trim the clip. You can look at that. Things are happening. I'm clicking. Look at that. I can move the clip around. So that's cool. That's built in because Final Cut's made by Apple, and Apple just does that. And here in Premiere, there's absolutely nothing. You see, I'm clicking on on the clip here, and there's just nothing right there on the touch bar. So get that integration with Apple in Final Cut. So for those of you still with me, real quick summary. Final Cut is a fixed cost. Adobe Premiere is a recurring cost. It takes 15 months for Adobe Premiere to catch up to Final Cut, after which you are paying a lot more out of pocket to be part of Premiere. However, if you're looking for a job in the industry, knowing how to do basics in Premiere could be the difference between getting hired and not getting hired. My personal preference is for Final Cut. I've had it for 4 years. It's paid its money back. You know, I'm simply winning. And I do know how to use Premiere. As you can see, I have Premiere and I do know the basics, but my go-to is Final Cut. Super easy to use. There's so many more things. Leave some descriptions below if you want me to do some more videos, go deeper into some particular topic. This is the Hunter Report. Please subscribe, please give me, and check the description below if you want to get either Premiere or Final Cut. I've provided links for you. This is the Hunter Report. Please subscribe, please give me thumbs up, and I'll see you soon.